I may be late to the Hyperfire review party, but I finally got my hands on one. A big thank you to Lord Draconical for letting me take one of his purchases home and take a look at it. Very nice of him, and it helps me out a lot. So, the Hyperfire is Nerf's brand new fully automatic blaster that is said to get up to 5 darts per second and shoot up to 90 feet. On the front of the box, we have the usual Nerf style layout where a guy is shooting the blaster, having lots of fun, and on the back you get details about some of the features on the blaster. The standard Nerf stuff going on here. But the real question is, what's inside the box? Inside the box, you get your instructional pamphlet, you get 25 elite darts, you get a 25 round drum, and you get the Nerf Elite Hyperfire itself, which I'm going to say right off the bat is heavier than I thought it would be. So let's go over the Hyperfire, the features on it, how it feels, and all that good stuff. So like I said, the Hyperfire does have a little bit of weight to it, and that weight is only going to get heavier when you put the D batteries into it. Yes, this thing takes D batteries, the big ones. So let me put those in really quick. Whew. With the D batteries inside the Hyperfire, this thing is pretty darn heavy for its size. And here's a comparison to a Rapid Strike with the stock all the way out. You can see the size difference right here, a bit shorter, but even though it's not a lot shorter, it feels really short, which is very nice. And the one good thing about where the D batteries are located is that because it's in the stock, when you kind of choke up on it, the weight feels like it goes away a bit. So it's a nice location, but it is a very, very heavy blaster. Segueing from the comfort of where the batteries are, let's talk about the new grip trigger area. It's a bit of a different layout. You have your main trigger right here, and then you have your rev trigger, which has this nice little scoop to it, which is a great bonus kind of change that they've done. It's gonna hug your middle finger a bit better than the weird kind of outward scoop of like the Rapid Strike or the Strife. And then you have your mag release, which is right across from where the rev trigger is. And this is a different design from the Strife and the Rapid Strike, where you can kind of grab the magazine and the mag release at the same time and pull out. This time you have to use your middle finger to release your mag. And while this is how I've always done my mag releasing, people who have been using the one hand technique may need to get used to it just a little bit, but it's very close, very comfortable, and very snappy to release your magazine. So it's a nice change. It's such a close button. I love the layout of this mag release. Very quick, very easy to release your mag, so I'm all about that. The only problem I'm having with it is this part right here, which gets in the way of my palm. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that, but my palm likes to rest up in here, and it just feels kind of weird. Now, this might be because of my bigger hands. They're a bit thick and a bit big, so children's hands I think will fit nicely into the grip area, but for older people and adults, this isn't going to be the comfiest. I would actually cut this entire area out and grind down this a little bit for ultra comfort. The grip itself is alright. It's really hard to say because of this area right here, but for littler hands I think it will be a much more comfortable experience for them. For adults, this does not feel good. At least to me, this is not comfortable at all. If we move up from the grip area, we have this white jam door at the top, which opens by sliding this back and pulling it up. And we also get a nice look at the new feeding system, which uses a conveyor belt and this little tooth. I think there's 2 of them, but it uses these little rubber teeth that point down and kind of push the dart in and go in a circle like this. So it pushes it into the flywheels and it just goes around a little circle, and you close it down like that and do that. Now there's one problem that I see with the conveyor belt system already, and that is with used darts. Since used darts have kind of squishy foam and some darts get flattened over time, your mileage with your darts may vary with the Hyperfire because the tooth is going to either like squeeze over the top of it, or it's not going to get a good grip. The foam's not going to be puffy enough to where it can actually like get a pushing hold on it. So you might not be able to use really worn out darts with this, or at least you won't be able to use them effectively. So yeah, you might want to keep your darts in good condition if you're going to be using the Hyperfire. But that's the new system, and it pushes the darts into a new flywheel system. On the Rapid Strike and the Strife, the flywheels are parallel, straight, like this. With the Hyperfire, they are slightly off at an angle, and this is supposed to put like a spin on the darts to make them more accurate. Now, with the canted flywheels, there is kind of a problem that arises, but I'll get to that at the end. If we move up from the jam door and above where the flywheels are, you have your one tack rail up here, and you have a muzzle at the front that does not allow for attachments of any kind, and you have just a hand grip down here. It kind of looks like what's on the Demolisher, but it's just a grip, and for a compact blaster, you wouldn't really think you would need a grip, but it is so comfortable. It's a very, very comfortable grip, and it's just with this on here, it's uncomfortable back here, but up at the front, lovely grip. I love this. I wish this part was as comfortable because then it'd be a really good feeling blaster. But yeah, for something this simple, it's very, very comfortable. And overall, the Hyperfire is a decently comfortable blaster. Other than that, the other difference with the shell and the blaster in general is I guess the camo on it. It now has this really nice tiger striping to it where you have 3 different kinds of stripes. You have this shiny kind, you have this matte smooth kind, and then you have this textured stripe. And I think it looks really good. When I saw it at Toy Fair, this was one of the things I thought looked really nice on the Hyperfire was this tiger striping. For people who want to paint their blasters, it might be a pain to get all of it smoothened down and leveled, but it does look really good on the Hyperfire. I dig it a lot, and I hope to see more of it in the future. So yeah, that's the Hyperfire in general. I believe now it is time to take it outside and give it a shooting test. So what do I think of the Nerf Elite Hyperfire, and should you consider getting one? Well, the Nerf Elite Hyperfire is a nice blaster in a compact size. It's not too much shorter than the Rapid Strike, but it feels so nice and compact. If I could take the Raven and resize it to something, this is what I would size it to, because it's just a great size. And when you pair it with the full auto capability that this blaster has, which is a really nice rate of fire, this blaster is pretty darn cool. Now, the big problems that I have with this is, one, I think the shell is absolutely hideous. It is an ugly shell, in my opinion. When you compare it to something like the Rapid Strike is so much better looking, and this just looks weird. There's really nothing going on with it that I like. When I saw the pictures of it, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna like this part of the blaster the most because, you know, this is pretty cool. Which goes into the second part of the problems that I have with it. Comfort. This is uncomfortable to me because I don't know if it's just because I have bigger hands or if Hasbro did something wrong with the design, but this just feels cramped. My palm is pushing up against this area. There's really nothing too comfortable about the grip area, and that is a problem to me. Now, smaller hands will probably disagree with me, and people have told me in the past that it wasn't designed for you. But yeah, I just can't get over how it feels, and I'm gonna have to slice off this area if I do get around to modding one. But with that said, I do like where the mag release is, and I do like the little curve in the rev trigger, so at least it has that going for it. But overall, it's a not so comfy blaster. This is still like the comfiest part to me, in a really ugly shell. Now, should you consider buying one? Now, I'm gonna break this up into 2 parts. For people who want to buy one straight off the shelf and use it just as is, and for those planning on modding. So let's start with people who are going to buy it and keep it stock. For those of you who will keep the blaster in its stock form, I would say the Nerf Elite Hyperfire is definitely a blaster worth checking out. I think kids will really like the look of it. It kind of has this sci-fi Call of Duty-esque look to it, and for a blaster of this size, it performs very well. It gives you this really nice rate of fire that I think kids will really find fun and give them a little bit of an extra edge in a Nerf war. So if you're going to be keeping it stock, I would say definitely check it out. Now this will retail for around $50, which is a bit more than the Rapid Strike depending on where you go, but yeah, definitely a cool blaster overall in its stock form, so I would recommend it. For those of you who are thinking about modifying your Hyperfire, I would say to hold off on it for a little while for a few reasons. The first one being the canted flywheels. Now the idea behind canted flywheels is that because it puts a spin on the dart, it increases accuracy. But at higher RPMs with newer motors, or if you're just overhauling the motors in general, there's a problem. Ryan of Make Test Battle did a simulation a while ago where he put a spin on a dart, and what happens is because of the spin, the tail of the dart starts coming outwards and it goes into this kind of spiral of death. And this was basically shown to be true with at least Koosh darts by Zombona in a video he uploaded, where you can clearly see the darts spinning out of control and losing a lot of velocity and their trajectory just going down the toilet. This is at least with Koosh darts, so it might not happen as much or at all with Nerf darts or FPJs, but this is a problem for those who want to use a cheaper ammo source. There might be a fix for this in the future, but for now, I would say if it can't shoot Koosh darts, there is a problem. The second source for problems that I can think of is the conveyor belt, the new feeding mechanism for this blaster. Instead of having a pusher arm that pushes from the center of the dart, like with the Rapid Strike or the Stripe, which is really efficient because you get a nice pushing area, a good surface area too, to push the dart into the flywheels, you have these teeth that come from the top down and really only push on the top half of the dart. So if you're using worn out darts or like deformed darts from being stepped on or whatever like that, I do not see the conveyor belt feeding reliably at higher RPMs. Now, I could be totally wrong about this, and hopefully I could be proven wrong, but that does seem to be a problem that will happen if you up the voltage or amperage going to the motor or just swap it out entirely. So I have my doubts about whether this feeding mechanism can really keep up when we get into the more overhauled style Hyper Stripes. So hopefully I'm wrong about that, but that is a problem that I do see happening. And the last problem comes for those who want to upgrade the internals of the Hyperfire, in that the main area for switches is super duper cramped without having to cut some screw ports, which is kind of important because you want your shell to stay together. Now, there is a lot of room in the battery compartment and up here for fun things and a battery, but where you want to put your switches is very, very cramped, which is a big problem that I see, especially for those who want to use the larger 15 and 21 amp rated switches to put some heft inside their blaster. So that's just a little important note for those of you who want to rewire this thing, is you're gonna have to think of your layout more than say with a Rapid Strike or a Stripe, where you have a lot of room and a lot of height to just shove wires and switches into it. So if you're thinking about going out and buying the Hyperfire, I would say to hold off for a little while until more people have messed around with the Hyperfire and figured out the best ways to do things. I would say that you should stick with the battle-tested, battle-proven, internally gone over, efficiently feeding Rapid Strike, and that will also save you about $10 to $15 at the store. And just keep an eye on the modding scene until more people have had time to play with the Hyperfire and figure it out a bit better. So just keep an eye on the modding scene and stick with the Rapid Strike. The Rapid Strike is a great blaster, and there's really no need to just jump on to the I'm gonna mod it Hyperfire train to be, first in your area. Hold off and just keep an eye out. So there we have it. That is a look at the new Nerf Elite Hyperfire, the new full auto blaster that is maybe set to replace the Rapid Strike in the near future. I'll have links in the description to where you can pick this up online, but for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a great day wherever you are.